One of the most common complaints I get in the comment sections to these videos is from Christian women who say that it's very difficult, near impossible, to find a man, even a man who claims to be Christian, that's actually willing to wait to have sex until they're married. So in this video, I'm going to give you 4 ways that you, as a Christian woman, can find a godly man who wants to live a sexually pure life. Now, the first 2 points in this video are going to be more preventative, and the next 2 points, points 3 and 4, will be more proactive. Number 1, don't live a sexually permissive lifestyle in your 20s if you want to find a man who's willing to wait to have sex until they're married. Now, if you're already past your 20s, just hang in there. I'm not saying everything is hopeless and there's nothing you can do. If you've already lived a sexually permissive lifestyle, but now you want to change, there's definitely hope for you. However, I still think it's necessary to start here to remind us all that our actions do have consequences. Many women struggle to find a man who's willing to wait and doesn't want to have premarital sex because they get mixed up in their 20s, their younger years, with men who do want to have sex. The fact is, the men who are actually willing to wait to have sex until they're married are also the men who are trying to get married young. The longer you wait as a woman to get your own heart and life ready to be with a man who's waiting to have sex, the harder it will be to actually find a man like this. So tip number 1 is you need to start early if you want to find a man who's willing to wait to have sex until marriage. Number 2, hold yourself to the values you want a man to have and reject every guy who does not have the standards you want when it comes to sexual purity. Whatever you want in a man, you first have to require of yourself. The fact is, many women, not all, but many, who say they want a man who's willing to wait to have premarital sex are also women who eventually give into the pressures of men who aren't willing to wait. After the relationship goes south with the man they have sex with, they often think, I want a godly man. I want to turn back to the Lord. This life of sin is just painful. And so that's what they do. They start repenting and they want a man who's living godly. However, then the loneliness kicks in. The temptation to just find somebody kicks in. It's hard to find a man who's has these values, and then there's these other guys pursuing her, and she knows that they're not what she wants, but she's also, again, lonely, so she's playing with fire. And eventually, when the loneliness gets bad enough and the attention of this man is convincing enough, she allows herself to fall into sexual sin. And then the whole cycle continues again. She realizes, wow, this was a terrible mistake. I feel bad now. I want to find a godly man. I want to be godly. Then the loneliness kicks in. Then she gets tempted by a man because she's lonely. And this whole cycle continues. So as a woman, if you're in this type of situation, what you're going to have to do is endure the loneliness. You have to get to that place where you're willing to feel alone for longer than you want. You have to push through the despair and feel like you're wasting your time and that you're never going to find a guy. And you just have to keep going and rejecting all the guys who are not what you're looking for. The only way to meet a Christian guy who has strong values and wants to wait to have sex until marriage is to have those values yourself. And to do that, you have to be consistent, never giving in to the wrong guys, always rejecting them. And again, I know many women are saying, Mark, I've been doing that. I'm doing what you're saying. It's still not working. Well, I'm not trying to be rude to those women. I'm being sensitive here. And maybe, you are doing this. I'm not saying every woman in this situation is just sleeping around. I just know that it's common to think you're doing it longer than you are. Has it been months? Has it been a few years? Okay, I'm telling you, you need to go longer. You need to never sleep with godless men if you want to be with a godly man. Galatians 6:9, and let us not grow weary for doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. So like I said in the intro, the first 2 points were preventative. Now let's talk about some proactive things you can do. Number 3, project biblical values in all areas of your life. If you want a man who has biblical values with his own sexuality, resisting sex before marriage is an odd thing to do to the world. And so there is zero chance that if a man is not trying to live biblically in all areas of his life, that he's gonna wanna live biblically in this area of his life. So you can't pick and choose when it comes to your own values of what you want to be biblical about and not biblical about, because the only men who are going to be resisting premarital sex are the men who are trying to live biblically in all areas of their life. So that type of man is going to want a woman who's also doing that. These are the type of guys that you might feel are too extreme, too religious, too judgmental, you may say. And maybe they are. There are certainly guys like that. I'm not saying you can't be too religious or too judgmental. But if you're looking for a man who's willing to wait to have sex until marriage, the world says that it is an extreme, and they're right compared to their standards. So you actually are looking for an extreme Christian. So a man like this is going to have very biblical values when it comes to the roles of men and women, when it comes to what he's willing to engage in with entertainment, when it comes to his traditional hopes for raising a family. Put simply, you can't have one foot in the world and one foot in the church if you're trying to be with a man who's willing to not have premarital sex. And point number 4, stop waiting to be found by this type of guy and find the man that you want to pursue you. If you're looking for a needle in a haystack, you better bring your metal detector. In other words, if you're being highly selective, which I'm glad you are, I'm encouraging you to be, you need to be very proactive and wise in the way that you're trying to be with this type of man. I'm not saying you should pursue a man. I'm not saying you should ask a man out on a date. I'm not saying that you have to join an online dating app. My point is that you have to be out there if you want to meet this type of guy. A man cannot pursue the woman he cannot see. If you have the energy to join a Christian online dating site, then go for it. Be prepared to reject men quickly, because obviously, as you know, there's tons of guys out there who claim to be Christian and still want to have sex, or claim to be Christian and just aren't. So go on a lot of dates and reject the men quickly. Be highly selective. If you don't want an online date, that's totally fine. You also need to be living a vibrant, active Christian lifestyle in the context of a community where there actually are men. It's very unlikely that you're going to meet a guy like this, a man who's Christian, a man who has real values, wants to wait to have sex. You're probably not going to meet him at the gym, probably not going to meet him at the grocery store. You're probably going to meet him somewhere where you would expect to meet a man like this, like church. Now, for those of you who are saying, Mark, besides church, where can I meet a godly man? Well, I actually answered that exact question in this video right here. I give you 4 ways to meet godly Christian men besides church. I'm Mark from ApplyGodsWord.com. Hope this was helpful. Until next time, God bless.